Hey, hey you, printer guy.
Whoa,
I need some help.
what can I do for you?
When I try to print in resin, everything fails. I can't make equipment if I can't print on my resin printer.
Okay, okay. I can help with that.
Fix it. Now.
Okay, so when I first started filming for this video, it was just going to be a generic little bit about resin printers, how they work, things like that, just to kind of get you started. And then I decided I wanted to print a lightning hamster wheel of doom. And I thought, let's change this. Let's make this a start to finish, how to print in resin in as short amount of time as I can. So that way anyone who's looking into getting a resin printer can do it, and they'll have all the knowledge that they need. Okay, so the first thing is something I don't want to spend a ton of time on, and that is, what printer should you buy? You're all going to do your own research. You're all going to look up stuff. You're all going to have different budgets and things like that. If you're looking for a budget-friendly printer, I did a video on the Voxelab Proxima 6. It's the cheapest resin printer that I could find out there, and it's a great little printer. It's a little 4K printer. And so if you're looking for a place to start, that's a good one. If you have more money, start with something better. It's that simple. The one thing I do want to say is kind of going back to what I was just mentioning about my printer, is that it is a 4K printer. And what I want to mention is that you're going to see 4K, you're going to see 8K, you're going to see 12K printers. Basically, all that means is how many pixels they can load into the light that creates the prints, because that's how resin printers work. You know, you put light on resin and it hardens wherever that light is. And so the more pixels you have, the clearer of a picture, the clearer of a model you can print. Okay, with that being said, a small printer that is 4K and a large printer that is 4K, they have the same light source. It's just being spread from a small screen to a larger screen. And what that means is that 4K on a small printer will be higher resolution than it would be on a big printer. And when I mean printer, I mean the build plate size. I mean the thing that slides into this. This is the small. You know, some of the bigger ones are a lot bigger than this. So kind of keep that in mind when you're looking for a printer. Just because it says 8K or 12K or something like that doesn't mean it's going to have that resolution. It means it's going to be good. But if it was on a smaller printer, it would be better, if that makes sense. And something to kind of keep in mind, it's November right now when I'm making this video. November, December, great months for sales on 3D printers. So if you're looking to buy one, just kind of keep your eye out. In most things, the name brand printer is going to be a lot more expensive, but with 3D printers, that's generally not the case. The name brands, you know, Elegoo, Creality, things like that are out there, they go on sale and they have really good deals. So pay attention to that. Get the printer that you want. Chances are you're probably only going to buy one unless you start a farm. So get the one you want. The price ranges from $200 to $500 generally. Of course, if you get a lot bigger printer, then yeah, it's going to go up there, but you're going to be in that range. So you might as well get what you want. So first things first, you have a printer. We'll say for the sake of this that you have put it all together, whatever little bits and pieces had to be put together. You need to level it. I'm not going to show you how to do that because there's instructions right on the back. So there's usually videos on how to level it. It's pretty easy. Just make sure that you are pushing down as flat as you possibly can when you level it.
I believe in you.
Pour your resin in, get it up to that fill line, whatever you want to do with it. If you want to add inks or anything like that to change the color, do it now, mix it in there. Again, don't let anything touch the bottom of your FEP sheet. That's this. Don't let anything touch this. I shouldn't be touching this, but this is an old one that I don't use anymore. So just, you know, don't let anything touch that. If you have to touch it, rubber spatula. Something that isn't going to tear it, because if that tears,
Game over, man. It's game over.
your days of printing are over until you get a new FEP sheet. Okay, but once you've got everything in there, it's full, it's ready to go, you need to get it from your computer to there. So let's talk about that. So first things first, you got to find a file. Where are you going to find a file? Well, go to the internet. There's multiple websites. I've talked about them before. For this, we're just going to go to Thingiverse because I think it's generally where most people start. Okay, so you go to Thingiverse. It's usually sorted by the most downloads of a file for that time period. You can change the filters. You can do all that stuff. You just look for the file to print, whatever that file may be, you know. And if you're like me and you're looking for D&D, well, just type in D&D and it will pull up stuff for D&D, monsters, boats, you know, all sorts of stuff. It's amazing. Find what you want. Okay, and then once you've found the file that you want, we'll click on this D&D miniature of Illithid Mind Flayer monster. You just come in here and there's going to be files. Okay, you go to the file, you download the file that you want. Okay, a lot of the times, and we're going to use my example of the lightning powered Hamster Wheel of Doom, you will get the download, and we'll come over here to my downloads, and it will show up and it'll be like this. Because once, especially with resin, you want high quality, and it's hard to get high quality without splitting things into a lot of pieces. So that's what this is going to do. It's going to save all the little pieces that you need. So you're just going to want to right click on that, extract all, save it wherever you want to save it, and then you'll get this. Well, let me jump in here. You'll get this. And these are all of the different files that you want to print. Now, keep in mind, there's generally one like this big boy down here. As you can see, it's humongous. That is the entire model. It's like every little piece. You can print it all as a whole if you want. It can be easier, can be harder. For the sake of what we're going to do today, we're just going to do little pieces at a time. Okay. So now you've got your file. You need to get it into your printer. To do that, you use what's called a slicer. There are a bunch of different slicers out there. The one we're going to be talking about today is this guy right here. This is Chitubox. I don't know if that's how you spell it or say it, but we're going to stick to Chitubox. Okay, and once you get into Chitubox, you're going to want to come over here. It'll load up to like a default like this, and you just want to come over to settings, click on your settings, and over here, oh no, excuse me, right here, you can add a new printer. Go through that, find your printer. Find the printer that you're using. They're almost always in there. If they're not, because you got some off-brand printer, that's okay. Find one that's similar to it. You can do that online. Okay, and then you'll just click on it and add it. But for, you know, the sake of just this, we'll hit it's an Elegoo. Oh, sorry. I guess I should have gone into that a little more. It's an Elegoo. You're going to find the one. Oh, you got a Mars. Pulls up a picture of it. You hit OK. And you add it to what you're printing with. Okay, I actually don't need this, so I'm going to delete that one. I got my Voxelab Proxima 6. Okay, and in here it's going to have the settings for this machine, how big the build plate is. You can come in here and you can put in the resin. You can even put in what the resin cost you. So if you bought a bottle of resin and it was, you know, $30, you put that in and it will give you a price for everything you print. It'll tell you exactly what it cost you based off of that. So really cool little tool. Over here is print. These are the print settings. For those of you who are just starting out, leave them alone. Print with the default settings. You can change all of that later, but for right now, just leave them alone. Print a couple things. If they're good enough, keep printing. I mean, these are the default settings for the Proxima, and I have not changed them, and I printed 100 miniatures with these settings. I love them. I think they're fine, so I left them alone. G-code, I'm not going to get into. Advanced, again, this is just a couple little other things. I would leave them alone for the time being. But anyway, once you got your printer selected, you would just click on that and it brings it up here. This is your printer. Now to print, we're just going to open up that file that had all those things. Okay. And for the sake of this, I want to point something out. A lot of files come with unsupported and supported. If you see down here, there is a folder for the supported models. And all that means is that somebody went in and put supports on them. And I'll show you what I mean by that. We'll just stick with, we'll do this, the wheel. And I'm just going to click and drag it over, and guess what? Boom, it pulls it in. So there is my wheel. Okay. Now, if I tried to print it like this, it would not go well because only this tiny little area is touching the plate, and so it would get pulled off of the plate way too easily. And there's a lot of things up here that are pointing down that if they don't have some sort of support attached to them, they will just fail. The printer will get to the point on them that it's trying to print them, and it can't just print in midair. It has to print something that's attached to it. So once you've got it here, you can do whatever you want to it. Okay. Don't print things flat. This is okay because it's a circular object, and so it's only going to touch down here for a little bit, and then it'll go to these points as it prints up. So a circle object doesn't matter too much. But what I mean by that is if we rotate this guy right there, okay, and we get it flat on the build plate, now when I print this, the entire surface of this model that's on the build plate is going to stick to this. And the other part of it, because it's sandwiches, is going to stick to the bottom of my vat. That thing I told you never to touch, it's going to stick to that. And it's going to have a tug of war. Every time it comes down to do a layer, it's going to have a tug of war with it to pull it apart. And then it comes down and makes another layer, and then it pulls it apart. It comes down and makes another layer, pulls it apart. And if it is too strong on the vat, it'll just pull it off your plate. The number one reason I have prints fail is because there's too much surface area on the actual build plate itself. Okay, and it just pulls it off. So when you're printing something, tilt it. Tilt it, because then all that you have touching is that tiny little point right there. And that's all you need. Okay, but obviously it can't print like this because this is super confusing to show you just on the slicer itself. What I mean by this is you have your build plate and you have the vat. And the build plate's going to come down into the vat, harden, and then it has to pull off. If there's ever more stuck to the vat than there is to the build plate, it will pull it off your build plate and your print will fail. Okay, so you need to make sure that there's always more stuck to the plate than there is stuck to the vat. Okay, so you need to add supports. And so up here, you just click on this and this will generate supports for this thing. Now, again, I don't want, well, I guess I'll show this. There are light, medium, and heavy supports. You got to decide what you want. For small things, I would stick to light. For heavier things, I would stick to medium. I have never done heavy supports. I've never needed them. I always thought that medium was good enough. Okay, and there are settings down here about how everything works. If you highlight the mouse over it, it will tell you exactly what each thing is. So use that, change it if you want to. Again, I would just leave it the way it is for now. Okay, and then if you come down here and you hit all, it will attach us supports to everything that needs a support. And that the angle is what determines what needs a support. So anything above a 45-degree angle will need a support. And so that's what it does. It comes out here and it attaches these supports to it. Okay, that is a lot of supports. That is just, it's resin. It's just resin that you have. So there's things you can do. I'm going to go ahead and remove those. I'm going to come back out here to this. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to change this to flat. As flat as I can get it, you know. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the same thing. I am going to attach supports to it. Again, just sticking to the mediums. It's a relatively big thing on the build plate, so I'll stick to medium. If I was doing smaller stuff, I would go to light, but for now, we'll do medium. And now, I have a lot of supports. Did it save much for me? Honestly, in this situation, it probably didn't save me too much. It may not have saved me anything. And that's kind of why you just got to toy around with it and find the way that you want to do it and how it works. If we lay this flat and then we do supports, there's not a lot that's above that 45-degree angle, right? Because there's just not a ton. So this is another way that you can do it. It takes up a ton of your build plate, so you'd only be able to do like one wheel at a time. And I don't like to do that. But if you're trying to save resin, move things around. Adjust them, change them, do what you need to do. find out what works best for you. And then once you have all of your stuff on your build plate, you're going to come back here and you're going to slice. And the slicing will go through and it's going to pop up with some interesting information. Like I said, it'll tell you how much it's going to weigh. It'll tell you what it's going to cost. So to print this wheel, it's going to cost me 48 cents if my resin was $30. And it'll tell you how long it's going to take. 1 hour, 24 minutes, 42 seconds. Keep in mind, that's not 100%. It's usually off by 10, 15 minutes or so. But it's pretty close. And once that is done, you can look through here. These are the layers. And so it'll show you on the right-hand side, this is what your printer sees. This is what it's printing. It's printing a support here and it's printing the wheel here. And so you can go to any point in the print to see what it looks like. Okay. And if we get down to the bottom, we're going to have all of those supports that are just there. So it'll show you exactly what each layer is going to look like as it prints and how many layers. It's 503 layers, which means that this print is going to have to go up and down and cure 503 times. Okay. And then all you have to do is save the file. Save the file. You're going to have to put it on a hard drive. Sometimes you can just send it directly to your printer. It just depends on what printer you buy, but you would save that and then you would go and you would put it into your printer. Once you got your file on your flash drive, you simply put the flash drive into the printer, click on print, find the file that you just created, because if you have multiples, they'll all be in there. Find the file that you printed and hit start. And then the build plate will lower and the print will start. And the tough part's done. Now all you got to do is wait for it to finish, clean it, and cure it, which it's pretty easy to do. Once the print's done, take the build plate out using your spatula or whatever you have that came with it. You pull it off the build plate. If you have a magnetic build plate, you just pop it off. Okay, and the print will pop off. And then you need to clean it. Now, you can take it all off, take the supports all off right now if you want. You can wait till later. It's up to you. The process doesn't really matter when you do it. I find that it's nice to cure it, to clean it first, even with the supports on, because generally I'm not doing things that are too big. If it is too big, then I'll pop the supports off. Now, fun tip for anyone who's doing this, hot water. Fill your sink with hot water. Fill a bucket up with hot water. Drop these in there for 30 seconds. Pull them out. The supports just pop off like butter. I had no idea it was this easy. And I did it for a year thinking, nah, it can't be that much better. It's so much better. They just come off. They come off and they don't leave as much there. They're always going to leave a little bit behind, right, when you pull the supports off, because it's just glued pieces to your resin. And the hot water reduces that a lot. So you pull those off, you get your model to the point where it's just the model, then you cure it. Then you clean it. You put it in the alcohol. If it's water washable resin, you put it in the water, you rinse it. If you have a wash and cure station, use that. I use a bucket of isopropyl alcohol and I just do my best to get it clean. Then you pull it out, let it dry. If there's pools of alcohol on it and you cure it, they will turn into white, dusty looking areas and they're not that cool. So let it dry, then cure it. You'll need a UV light to cure it. You can use the sun, you can use a UV lamp that you have. Again, if you have a cure station, you can use that. It will differ how the model hardens. Like a UV light is definitely better than sunlight. So just kind of keep that in mind. The longer you cure it, the harder it will become, which also means the more brittle it will become. So if your models are brittle and they're falling apart, try curing them a little less. They'll still hold together, they'll still be good, but they might have a little bend to them, which you'll appreciate. And once you've done all that, you're done. The model is done. Start to finish, your resin model is completed and ready for you to prime and paint or do whatever you want to do with it. And that's it. That's all it takes. If your prints are failing, it's because of one of the steps that we just went over. Something's not right. Either your model's too flat on the build plate, or your supports aren't strong enough, or like I said, when you were leveling the build plate at the very beginning, you weren't pushing down on all of the sides while you leveled it. So make sure you do those things, and most of the time, it'll work. Now, if you're looking for tips and tricks and things that I wish I had known, check this video out. If you found this video helpful at all, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep putting stuff out. You can't stop me. No one can stop me. I'm just going to keep doing it. But I would love to have your support while I do that. So if you could, drop a comment below. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what helped you. Let us know if I'm doing something wrong. I've been doing this for a couple years now, and I've printed hundreds of things on my printer, and they've all turned out pretty good. But I'm always down for them to be a little better. And I hope you are too. Because here at Pulsegate Games, that's what we're all about. Making your tabletop experience a little better. Making your 3D printing experience a little better. So stick around. And as always, don't spend so much time printing, making your world, creating your world, that you forget to spend a little bit of time in it. Until next time.